All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Christie. I'm Speaker of the House for Michigan Dental Association, and thank you for joining me for a Zoom presentation on our pre-annual session, Caucus Concepts. Trying to come up with an idea for how this might work best, but just trying to get some information out before everyone goes through and starts caucusing coming up here in the next month. Some areas that I want to make sure to go through here tonight, the focus points for our meeting. First, what is the role of delegates and alternates and the importance of alternate delegates? 2, what should you review before you caucus? What do you do at your regional pre-House of Delegates caucus? Just some ideas there. And from your regional caucus, creating an amending resolution or preparing for the reference committee hearing. Next, reference committee presentation. And last, the times and dates for the House of Delegates at Dentistry in the D coming up here May 1st through the 4th. First thing I wanted to start off with, though, was one of our important things as a volunteer and working with our association is what we have. We have 3 primary legal duties of our volunteers: care, the duties of care, loyalty, and obedience. MDA, if you go to our site, has these leadership orientation videos that focus on each one of these. I want to present this one tonight because a lot of the concepts are ones that you're going to see later on in the presentation. All right, so let's take a look first at the roles of delegates and alternate delegates. A lot of this, as I said, you'll just see some parts that were just in that video that we look at. So we know that delegates and alternates represent your component dental societies, your unique observations about impacting dentistry, as well as your own component's unique needs. The delegate and alternate need to communicate these observations and needs to the Michigan Dental Association via the House of Delegates, as well communicating to the MDA board as a delegate or as a delegation. Now the roles here, serving in the House of Delegates incurs certain obligations. You need to be well informed on the issues confronting the profession and the Michigan Dental Association. You need to serve as a communicator between, as I said, your constituency and your component and the MDA board. It's critical because it requires you attending component dental meetings as well as keeping up with MDA communications to relay information both ways. So bringing what you learn from the MDA, because you do have unique access as well, although any member dentist can, but you serving as a delegate and alternate are one that needs to pay special attention to these and bring what you learn from the board, from the House of Delegates back to your local component. Now remember that the term of a delegate or alternate is 1 administrative year, so from House meeting to House meeting. So what goes on and with attending and participating in the House of Delegates meetings held during our annual session? Study background information you get in advance. Participate in the discussions actively. You saw that in the video. Being strategic in where our organization is headed. Working with your component dental society to submit recommendations to the House of Delegates. And that's one thing we have seen in the past, but it's one thing even from 16 years ago when I was first on the board. It's one of the challenges is seeing where we can bring this in. So it's one of my focuses over this year and hopefully next year as well, if elected again, to work with components to find out more. We can bring those recommendations to the House or take them directly to the board as well. One thing you need to do as well, read the bylaws and the manual of the House of Delegates. Those are, if you want to fall asleep at night, you can read bylaws anytime. But it's important to read them. You don't have to memorize them. You don't have to know them by heart. We're not going to make you stand up on the stage and read them off or recite them. I wouldn't be able to, but I think Michelle could. Michelle Nichols-Cruz probably can recite each one. Let's see, go on next. First, for your role here too, attend and participate in any scheduled component region caucus before the House meeting and the ones on site. Keep up with what we have and what we send out. You'll see that after every board meeting and regular basis that we do throughout the year, we have the delegate digest. We have the information. You have the trustee report after every board meeting that we sent out, as well as what occurred at the board meeting you're sent out as well. And be participatory, provide feedback and ideas. We had this last year. We'll have some of these this year where components can provide feedback. As you know, that our board reaches out, or maybe you don't know, before every board meeting, every component, executive director, if there is one present, and president are also contacted by a board member, executive committee, or a trustee to reach out to those local components to see if there's anything of nature or of concern that they have, anything they'd like us to discuss, and doing so. And so I think every component is contacted. So this is where making sure they know and following through. So that's keeping up on the communications. Right there. Review the board and the committee minutes when they're published, and know who your MDA officers and trustee are. Communicate ideas, suggestions, issues, and concerns with them. As a delegate and alternate, you're going to be voting on for who your trustees and who you're going to have represent you coming up this year. Get to know them and take that opportunity as well, if you haven't met a trustee, to go meet them, meet whomever you see that's on the board. I think it's important to do that. Now, this is something for me, and working with the components and working with Michelle Nichols-Cruz, we've had some challenges over the past years as well with what's the importance of having alternate delegates. Each component has the same number of delegates and alternates to serve in the House. So we have 102 in our House, which means we have another 102 alternate delegates as well. How your component selects to fill these roles is very important. Now, your local component can look to the future and filling these roles. They can say it's a great first contact or opportunity for a member dentist to get them into statewide leadership or even in your component leadership. The mentoring these individuals, and I feel very strongly, is imperative to the future success of our association as well as your component. When I first came through as an alternate delegate, that was back in 1998. I was 2 years out of dental school. I was involved with our board and asked to be an alternate delegate, and suddenly I was the chair of a delegation. That was a little onerous, but somehow I made it through, and I think everyone else can. And one way that you can look at this, and that was exactly what happened with me, is a component can maybe have, if they have a few alternate delegate slots, have that with a past component leader or a seasoned House of Delegates or MDA or ADA veteran, somebody who served there in the past, whether they're at the meeting, but providing that mentorship, providing the history of how we do things along the way, and how we've done things in the past. Having a history is a good thing, but living in the past is always a challenge. And so in this regard is, what can we show and going, and I know there's some terrific advisors and terrific seasoned House of Delegates members who really will provide support. You just got to reach out to them too. Maybe that's something we'll look at in the future. But I do believe it's terrific when you can have a full delegation is what you look at. And you can bring in people with a unique perspective to get them involved as well, but bring those leaders along. All right, let's move on. Materials to be reviewed before you pre-caucus. First, download the complete package of the current resolutions from the House of Delegates page on the MDA website. There it is. Let's see if I can get in there. There it goes. All right, so in here, we can go under delegates and alternates, the House communications, the reference committees. All this information is right there. Usually I'll go through on the House of Delegates page, and on this, I'm going to click over here on, let's see here. Now we're off that screen. We'll resume share. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. So on there, go to that site that's on there under current House resolutions and reports. I think the difference is when I give this presentation, if it was in person, you'd see that would click and open up. Sorry about that. But you open that up. You go through the MDA governance, click on the House of Delegates page, and then click on current House resolutions and reports. So you can view and download those resolutions on the website, as well as something new this year is you can download all of the current resolutions by using a zip file. And if you remember the commercial, so easy a caveman can do it, well, it's so easy a Board of Trustees member can do it, folks. They've been using this method for the past 8 years. So with that, it really works out well. You can download the zip files, but you'll see on that site when you open that too, you can still click and look at each one that we have there. Now, There are instructions directly below where you can click to open that zip file or download it on how to open that zip file to your device. This is one way that the ADA has been using it now as well. It's one of the things that you'll be seeing coming to you before from the Committee on Credentials, Rules, and Order regarding the House manual. Looking at this as an opportunity before you as a resolution this year to switching how you receive the information rather than receiving a hard copy in the mail, as has been done for years, switching to having these downloadable to a device and doing that. So that's the one part that's on there. I wanted to try and see if we could have it available both ways this year so you can see how easy it is. And as always, if there's any questions, you can reach out to Michelle Nichols-Cruz. She has taught and mentored so many individuals to get through to how to do this correctly. Additionally, you'll see that the ADA House, which is much larger, and I will say much older average age than the Michigan Dental Association House of Delegates, they've even figured it out too. Now, it's important to review what's been going on in your association over the past year. The way to see this is go to that Leadership Central page on the MDA website and click and open the Review Past Actions page. So underneath where you see that in there on the website, under the House of Delegates and the Board of Trustees, there is a click that says Review Past Actions. There it is under Leadership Central. So under that Review Past Actions, that page you can see and review the following information. All the actions from the Board of Trustees. So this is all the minutes that come out of those, as well as the trustees report, which is a synopsis of each one. You'll see that. You'll see all of the committees of the Michigan Dental Association with their reports from each one of their meetings around there. And included, you'll see from the Dental Pack, and I believe the foundation's on there too. You'll also see all the House of Delegates actions. This will make for great reading if you want to go back and look at past House actions going back to, I want to say, 10 years ago right now. I went back, I think it was 2008 or something was in there. I was reading myself when I was up on there as secretary of the association. So it is a lot of past history, but looking back just over the past year, and importantly to look at too is the House of Delegate committee actions. So you'll see regarding the NOMCOM, the reports that are all there. Those are things to look at. Do you need to memorize? No, but you'll have the flavor of what's gone on in the association of the past year. Right there, substantial amount of information. There's a substantial is, I think, understatement about what's been going on. Now, reviewing these, excuse me, these materials may answer some questions you have or spur suggestions that you, your component, your delegation, or your caucus would like to bring through the House as an advisor, or to give a recommendation to the Board of Trustees on something you'd like to have them pursue. If you have a question about something you read and want more information first, reach out to the MDA and get more information. If it's from the Board of Trustees, reach out to a trustee or one of the executive committee. If it's something from a committee, reach out to the staff, the MDA team member who works with that group, or one of the people that's on the committee, and maybe you can get more information that way. Just the whole idea is get more information. So you've read everything, you understand most, you got a couple questions, and most importantly, at your pre-caucus, you're going to be looking at the resolutions and that information that's going to be before you at the House of Delegates coming up on May 2nd and May 4th. Well, at your Regents pre-caucus, review the resolutions, okay? What you'll do is discuss with your fellow delegates and alternates the pros and cons of the resolutions, then determine if you are in favor of the resolution or opposed to the resolution. Now, every component, every regional caucus may be different. You know, we have some that are larger groups. If you look at West Michigan Steering Committee or Regions 1 and 2, you know, versus having it where Oakland District caucuses on their own. You have a difference of many miles in different components in some or a specific area with others. Now, it might be where, let's say, Lakeland Valley has an opinion that's varying and differing from Kalamazoo Valley or from West Michigan or from Muskegon. You're still trying to learn information and take that time. And to remember back to the video, listen, evaluate. You know, to come with an open mind. You never know what you might learn or how perspectives might change. But you can always say if you're in favor or opposed to something. Most importantly, you want to answer that question. Is this resolution best for our association as a whole? So determine if you have questions or need additional information. So as a group, If you need to reach out to the MDA team or one of the Board of Trustees. Now, if you're reading through a resolution and something, you're saying, you know, I really think we could improve this, determine if you want to do that, and there's some ways to do that too. So at your caucus, you say, all right, we need to make a change. If you think a change to a resolution will improve it for our association, you have two ways that you can do this. First, you could create an amending resolution to submit prior to the first meeting of the House of Delegates. Or you could bring your recommendations and give testimony at the reference committee hearing following the first meeting of the House of Delegates. So realistically, you could put it in writing and send it in. And at that point, we make sure that's germane to what the discussion is. We answer any questions that would come through, get approval, and then send it out to the House of Delegates as an amendment to that resolution. So that could be discussed at the reference committee hearing. Or the alternative is you come to the reference committee hearing, you provide your testimony, why you think and how you would like to change something. So the first part is you put it in writing. The second one is you speak in front of the reference committee and give your testimony there rather than in writing prior. So when you're creating an amending resolution, you determine your reasons for altering that resolution and make a recommendation viewing this resolution, and you submit it to the House of Delegates prior to the meeting. So you can provide this electronically to Michelle. Your reasons for amending are a very important part of the process. So however you want to change it, you got to say the why. That's the important thing, because we want to take those reasons to create a background statement and attach it to the resolution. So this statement is your testimony to the reason for the change. You want to have it be understood as to why you're making the change. That's how you do it. Remember, amendments to a resolution can be made in one of four ways. You can amend by addition, by inserting words within a motion. You can amend by deletion, by striking out words within a motion. And then by, guess what, striking out and inserting. So striking out, we got to watch those typos. Striking out within a motion, then adding contiguous words. And last, amend by substitution, by substituting one major section of a motion with a replacement section. So remember, as I said before, that when you're proposing an amendment, that the most important consideration is that it must be germane. What in the world is germane? It must have direct bearing on the subject of the resolution that the amendment seeks to change. It can't be apples and oranges. It needs to be apples and apples. It can't be something totally different. So that resolution amendment form is how you do that. That form, guess what? It's on the House of Delegates page under the current House resolutions and reports. So that same area where you went through and downloaded the zip file or looked at the resolutions on there, it's on that form is on there as well. Additionally, your delegation chairs and the caucus chairs as well will all have that form sent out to them. Remember, as last year, these need to be submitted electronically. This could be by email or, like I said, anything you need, we're here to help, and we can help you through that. So let's take a look at one here. First, the proposed resolution that we'll hear is resolved that the House of Delegates urges the Michigan Dental Association Board of Trustees to use its reserve funds to purchase a location in Lansing for the purpose of legislative affairs and hire a design firm for the renovation of the location. So remember, the first way we could change would be by amend by addition. So an amending resolution could say, add the following words following Lansing. So then the resolution would read, resolve the House of Delegates urges the Board of Trustees to use its reserve funds to purchase a location in Lansing within 1/8 of a mile of the Capitol building for the purpose of legislative affairs and consider on. So if you submitted that, you'd want to say, why do we want to make sure it's within 1/8 of a mile of the Capitol building? Now, a second amendment could be honored by amend by deleting. Amend by deleting that line that we see stricken through there that says, and hire a design firm for the renovation of the location. Whatever reason they gave for doing that by deleting that out, so be it. That's what they're recommending, and they give reasons why they think that that should not be there. Back to that same resolution, let's look at a third way we could look to change it. By striking out and inserting. They could amend this by urging that the Board of Trustees to use its reserve funds to lease a location in Lansing for the purpose. It's still involving that location. You're just changing from purchasing to leasing. to in there. So, and that would be, again, germane. Or last, amend by substitution. That it could be that changing that whole thing could be to resolve that the House urges the MDA board to form a work group to evaluate the best options to acquire a location in Lansing for the purpose, as we said, and create cost assessments for the renovation of the location with a report to the House of Delegates meeting in 2020. It's all germane. They're changing some things, but looking for urging the MDA Board of Trustees to form a work group on this one. Now, it's not telling them who needs to be on it, but it's asking them to do that and urging them. Now, that's one big thing that's changed from when I was on the board the first time. The House of Delegates here can urge and ask for the Board of Trustees to review these things, to look at these opportunities. So this is, again, where you are looking from the 30,000 feet from what's going on in dentistry and trying to catch blind spots that the board may have. And those are all out there, as we know, within our practices. So that urge is the big thing that we will look for. We're not going to, it's not prescriptive, as though we cannot have a prescriptive resolution that tells the board you must do this, but urges them is what we look for. Now, that's if you want to amend and do it prior. Now, the other way, bring it to the reference committee. Bring your ideas to the reference committee hearing, which follows the first meeting of the House. Now, actually, it will follow the presentation of candidates and lunch. So the meeting, that first committee hearing will be probably about 12:30, I think, is where we're timing out and looking at it right now on Thursday, May 2nd. So at that one, the resolutions will be presented for the House to consider. And to give testimony, here's what we look for. And it's not just from House members. It can be from any member of the association can come in there and give testimony. So what we use the reference committee for is that the committee may advise the House on a course of action for the resolution. So they take this testimony, they break it all down, and they look whether they're going to recommend approval or if they will rewrite a resolution and provide what we call an RC, a reference committee version of it, or if they're going to recommend that it be voted down. By getting the work done on Thursday in the reference committee and listening to the testimony and having those individuals up there who then go through and sit in the back and sequester to get this worked out, it saves a considerable amount of time at the second meeting of the House on Saturday. Excuse me. The important thing is getting that work done. Remember, it's not uncommon for testimony to go entirely opposite of where you think it might go in your caucus. I know for some of us who've been doing this a few years, we've seen it happen. You know, anything can happen in a meeting. And so this is just one way you want to be prepared. By going in there and knowing what you know and needing to do what you do, you know, where you stand, you can give testimony. If you all came up with something and no one's standing up to say why you think it's a good idea, well, you only have yourself to blame if that recommendation comes back with a no vote, a recommended no vote. Who knows? You know, that testimony you give is important. Now, you've gone through and you've reviewed everything from the resolutions, whether you are going to make an amendment or you're going to say, let's speak to this at the House and give some testimony there at the reference committee. What if you come up with something new and you want to bring it? Well, what do you need to do? Well, there you go. Bring it to the House of Delegates for discussion of potential adoption. So it's time to write up a resolution. Remember, a resolution is a substantial proposal presented to the House of Delegates for consideration, discussion, a decision, and action. As I said, the House of Delegates, one of the powers you have is to advise the Board of Trustees regarding any matter of importance other than bylaws. The House of Delegates is in charge of the bylaws. This is done through a resolution. All resolutions adopted by the House of Delegates must be acted upon by the board no later than the second Board of Trustees meeting following the House at which the resolution was adopted. So this is where, let's say that one we looked at was urging the board to form a work group. If that one, let's say that was what was approved. Well, then by that second meeting, the board needs to have done something. Now, typically the second board meeting is in October for where we see those. So by then, the work's getting done. The board trustees need to do one of the following actions on each non-bylaws amending resolution or resolution, excuse me, I have that amending in there. They need to either adopt it, they either need to overrule it, they could adopt the resolution as amended by the board if they make changes to it, or last, refer the resolution to the appropriate committee for further review and or recommendation. Who knows? Anytime a resolution that comes from the House to the board, that's why we always say urges the Board of Trustees to do this, because the board will then make the decision where that needs to go to for evaluation, review, and a recommendation. So the big thing is, if you have an amending or a new idea, either way, please feel free to reach out to myself or Michelle Nichols-Cruz for assistance in getting the information exactly how you and your delegation want it to be. All right. The House of Delegates calendar for annual session. Wednesday, May 1st, 5 to 7, we have the parliamentary training and meet the candidates. On Thursday, first meeting, we hit the gavel down at 8:30. We have the forum that will start, follows the first meeting of the House of Delegates. And then the reference committee follows the candidate forum. And we will have lunch between the candidate forum and the reference committee hearing. Saturday, the reference committee reports will be delivered to the regional caucus rooms by 7 a.m. But as well, we anticipate that we'll have those as a digital copy as well available too. So you'll have those to work off of on your devices. Component meetings are starting in the morning at either 8 or 8:30 typically. All the meetings of the caucuses will be in the Cobo Hall. Second meeting starts at 1 o'clock. All right, contact information for myself and Michelle is there, and this is always shared. This will be attached on there too. That's my cell phone. You can always call me, text me. If you text me and you haven't texted me before, just type in your name so I know, so I can get it added in. Or you can email me at xtrctr@sbcglobal. All this information, as you know, is on every delegate digest for getting a hold of us. Okay. Now, the one thing I do want to talk to you about too, and it was on the end of that meeting, and I didn't create any screens or slides for it. The one important thing that you saw in there is reference committee. I know last year, if you remember from the parliamentary talk that we did that I did on the Wednesday, was talking about the reference committee overall. And so next week, I hope to have it launched as part of the Delegate Digest. We might have a special one that comes out that will talk specifically about the reference committee. As to how it works, who's on it, where it goes, how they do things, how they can make changes to it, to a resolution, all the nuts and bolts of what the reference committee is. So my goal, as we've had with a number of these, is to provide some information, give you ideas for how give you information how it works and ideas how we can make changes and how you can make changes to things that we have. But the reference committee to me is the most important part that first day. Obviously, all the great information you get from being in the first meeting of the House, but that reference committee really gets down to the nitty-gritty and breaks those down. And I'll tell you, last year the group that worked on there did an excellent job. I anticipate as well that happening this year with the House of Delegates Reference Committee too. I think they will do a bang-up job as well. I know there was a few things in, and I know I spoke fast also, but let's see. I'd entertain any questions right now. We can type those in the chat box. For those, or I think we can use the chat box as well so people can use that. But if anybody has any questions, be happy to answer those. Question on how are the members of the reference committee appointed? I choose them. We go through in the selection process that's in your bylaws. Mine are always right here under bylaws. So going through, and when I look at those, we look across the board in the way I've selected last year and this year. We look for, I looked for individuals from across the state to be involved. Typically, we may have people who've done it before, some who've not done it before, to get them involved. And so looking for individuals that way. I try to make sure that we've picked, and I think if you look at our group this year, from the Upper Peninsula down to Detroit, over to West Michigan, and not West Michigan District, but all through the areas, trying to give a good cross-section of our membership and be representative of our membership. That's what's important to me for how I look to select those with that. Hopefully that was an answer. I think so. And if you watch the reference committee video when it comes out, I think that's on there too. Other questions? Deanna, you may have a follow-up one if you need that too. Well, as you see, there's a lot going on the past few weeks. I will tell you. Okay, thank you. Last week, if you watched the Delegate Digest video that I shot, it was a busy last last week and the week before that, we had the meeting of the credentials, rules, and order. We had 2 nights where the videos were shot for those individuals running for ADA delegate and ADA alternate, as well as Michigan Dental Association trustee. So we spent 2 hours shooting those videos between Tuesday and Wednesday, or Monday and Wednesday. Tuesday we had credentials, rules, and order. We had a meeting by Zoom, and all these were by Zoom. It was also for the bylaws language review committee met, and then as well the election commission met. So this is my wife understands is the busy time of year with my role, but it's not before we get to the house. Then it gets even more busy, but that's when the fun starts. So if there are no other questions, I would thank you all for your involvement here and dropping in and listening in or watching today as well. And yes, Spartans will. We hope they will win coming up here. And I know Dr. Mark Johnston knows that I did say I'm looking for a 4th meeting between Michigan and Michigan State. It would be in the Final Four, but you never know with that. But I guess you got a dream, right, with those. But I wish everyone a safe journey. And if you have any questions whatsoever, as I always say, text me, call me, email me. Always available to answer questions and help out along the way. So, terrific. I thank everyone for your attendance, and have a great evening. Thanks.